Okay, to start with, I'm going to run through the files that are all in the zip file that you're going to get and give you a kind of general overview of how this all fits together. Within the zip file, you'll have these three folders. You'll have Arduino, which has the Arduino code, Flash, which has your two Flash examples, and the serial proxy server for Mac and PC, which has to run to connect the two. So first of all, just to give you an idea of how this all works, it's kind of a three-step process. So on the Arduino, we have the code that tells it to send information over the USB, and the way we do that is with the serial.print command. We had used that before just to kind of check values, but it's used exactly the same way to communicate with the PC. So we send it out with serial.print in a format that we can then understand later. That goes to a program that's going to be running in the background on your computer, which is the serial proxy server. And what it does is it takes the serial data coming over the USB and assigns it to a kind of local port that Flash can connect to. The important things here are, one, knowing which serial port or COM port Arduino is connected to, and knowing what port number Flash is looking for. The other thing that's important between the two is to know what speed Arduino is connected at. So specifically for these examples, the network port number is always going to be 9001, and the baud rate or the speed is always going to be set to 9600. This number is also going to be important with the Flash movie, but like I said, all the examples are set up to look this way at the beginning. Okay, so if you open the Arduino file, you'll see some things that are pretty similar to other examples we've looked at. At the top, I've just got 4 variables that are going to hold the value of the 4 button inputs. An array here which contains the pin numbers of where each button is connected. Mine are just higher numbers because I'm using the different version of the board, but this will just be the first button, second button, third button, fourth button, those numbers, just as you've done before. In the setup, this is just a bit of an automated way to do the same thing we were doing before, of setting the pin mode and setting the resistor for all of our input pins. And then the important part within the setup is to make sure we get the serial.begin, which essentially on Arduino turns on, is the switch that turns on saying, I can now write to the serial port, or write over the USB port. So I should say the important thing is, for this to work, you do have to have it plugged into the USB. Like I said, the important thing to remember here is this is the kind of rate or the speed that it's connecting at, which is at 9600, and it's important to remember that just because you have to have the same speed on your serial proxy. As we go down, it's the same thing as before, so doing a digital read to get the 4 button inputs into the variables B1, B2, B3, and B4. And then at the bottom here is where we kind of package everything together to send it as one piece of information. So if you can see, where before we were always kind of using print ln, which was one line at a time, now we're using several serial.prints to join it all together. So we've got serial.print, and then our variable B1, then printing a comma, then B2, then a comma, then B3, then a comma, then B4, and then this 0 byte. What this means is when we grab all the information from the buttons, it's going to package it all together in one string. So for instance, if the first 2 are on and the first 2 off, it will be kind of 1, 1, 0, 0. Or where 1 is on and 0 is off, it's going to put it all together into one chunk that way. This 0 byte character is something that Flash needs, so it knows, because it's sending constantly, the kind of cut point to know where the message finishes. It doesn't have any way of knowing how many characters are sending it, so this is basically our cutoff point, so it knows that's the end of the message.